Hello, welcome to the Progverse. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. Almost a late show as I fell asleep and woke up thinking it was still 2 hours in the future. And here we are at 8 o'clock. Man, I was really messed. I went and looked at the clock. I said, oh my God, I got like 5 minutes. Anyways, I want to welcome you here to the Progverse. Grandizer, thank you for showing up. That's much appreciated. Yeah. No, I'm not that kind of prog monster. But thanks for the sentiment. So, anyways, tonight's topic is headphones albums. So I got a stack here, I think there's like 25 albums here. I picked off my stack of albums that I enjoy on the headphones. I tend to stay away from like heavy metal and hard rock albums because I like them loud. So they don't play well on the headphones when they're really loud like that. Usually give me a headache. So those type of albums, you won't see much of that here. It's mostly progressive stuff and some albums that are made specifically for headphones. No, we'll stick with the Iron Maiden one. I kind of like Eddie. You did say it was a monster, that I'm a prog monster, and Eddie, of course, is a monster. Yes, Kiss sing that song. I love it loud. One of their worst tracks. Yeah. Actually, I kind of like that song initially, but over the years, it's come to be facing the bottom of the deck when it comes to that kind of music. So I got my two stacks here. Probably could have picked some others. I tried to just pick one from each band, not inundate you with one particular collection, because there's one or two collections that I love. I'll probably talk about them anyways, but yeah, no, you're good. You're good. You're good enough. Yeah. So, anyways, so I tried to stay away from more than one album per band here, just because I could have a couple of bands that would have almost their own stack, right? But anyways, we're gonna get to it. And by all means, if you want to suggest albums that you like on the headphones, you're more than welcome to. So these are sort of in alphabetical order. The last couple maybe not, because they were in my oversized stack. They don't go on the rack very well, so I didn't use them. They kind of went on there last. Okay, the first album is this one, John Evangelis, The Friends of Mr. Cairo. I don't really like this particular cover all that much. I have this premonition that the original cover was kind of I think the album was kind of white. I don't remember it being this color, but it could be just my imagination playing on me. So this album was from 1981 too. I like it because Vangelis sounds really good on the headphones. He's not a Rick Wakeman type keyboardist by any stretch. Doesn't go off into these magnificent solos. He just knows how to make and create a certain atmosphere with the album and the music, which I think is absolutely great. I love it. Probably the song I like the most, of course, is "The Friends of Mr. Cairo." Sounds amazing on the headphones. Love it. But the whole album is great. State of Independence. Just a fantastic track. So a few people have covered this too, and one of them, I believe, was Donna Summers. I believe she covered this. It's kind of strange, but yeah. So this is a very good headphones album. At least for me, it's one of the ones I like the best for that. Next up is a hard rock album, but it's because of the detail that comes out when you do it. BTO is not fragile. There's a lot of detail that comes out when you're playing this album that you don't normally hear too much when you're playing it loud, which I play this album quite loud. The bass and the guitar really frontal, and you don't hear the detail as much. But so this is one of the oddities as far as hard rock goes. And you could say the same thing about their four-wheel drive album, kind of that similar feeling going on. They're both very similar albums. I like this one better because I think the songs are better because they pick their best songs for this album, and then there's a few left over that they put onto four-wheel drive. So it's a bit of a leftover album, but not terribly so. But great album, this one, for headphones. The next one up, I don't think I'll get much argument for it. So it's more of a psychedelic album, not so much of a prog album. Of course, the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I love to listen to this. There's a lot of stuff on this that is quite detailed that you don't normally hear too much of when you're playing it on the record player on the stereo. But it's very good in the headphones. A lot of little details that I like to hear, right? Next one up is a heavy album as well, but this one's kind of a different heavy album. It's not continuous banging and crashing. It has little parts in it that stand out more. A couple of songs on this, Planet Caravana, of course, and Electric Funeral are absolute killers on this, on the headphones. Both of them prefer this album that way as well as to the production of the album isn't that great, but it comes out better on the headphones, at least in my opinion. So Black Sabbath, Paranoid. The next one, a little bit more of a psychedelic album, bluesy album, lots of funny details, and you can hear the speaking parts easier on this as well. This is the Doors' debut album. Just a fantastic album. I could have included LA Woman too, because Riders on the Storm is absolutely one of my favorite headphone songs. But I chose this one because I think overall it's a better album with lots of great sound. If you want to hear my ranking of these guys, you can go back and see it on my favorites. I did it recently, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Great album. Fantastic. And I'll do one more and then take a little bit of a break and talk about whatever you want to talk about. This one is from Eloy. This is their Colors album. A lot of people like this and say it's their favorite. It was initially my first album by the band. Initially, I only liked hearing it on a low volume. I didn't care for the guy's voice back then. I was still new to it. But this has become one of my favorite albums. It's great to listen to on the headphones. Clear, crispy sounding. Yeah, fantastic. Eloy's Colors. So is there anybody out there that wants to offer up an album that they like? By the way, you could easily have put any one of a half dozen Eloy albums in there, and it would have fit right in. The next one up, maybe a little bit strange. No, it's not that the band sounds better on headphones. It's just these particular albums. I like the sound of them on the headphones. I don't necessarily like them better than the ones on the when it's just played normally on the record player. Some of them I do, but it might not necessarily be that way. These are just albums I happen to enjoy on the headphones, and I may enjoy them on the record player as well. The next album we're going to talk about a bit is this one, Peter Gabriel's 3. Now, you could put just about any one of the Peter Gabriel albums here. It's really clear, crystal sound that comes through with his albums. I just think this one has a lot of different sounds. You got the drum part in Intruder. You've got that little kind of, I don't even know what they call it. It's almost a, I can't think of what's making the sound in No Self-Control, but it comes through very well on the headphones. Fantastic thing. Yeah, that's the whole thing. What you just said there, Grandizer, that is the whole premise. There's some albums come through better on the headphones. They do come, and it's mostly bands that have a lot of different instrumentation and detail that you probably wouldn't hear if you get the whole mass thrown at you at the same time. I mean, you can hear them on the regular thing, but not as well. You get more of a family snapshot of it, really. Yeah, Games Without Frontiers, another great tune for this too. Stephen Biko, or Biko if you prefer, another great album. I like this a lot on headphones. I do like it on the regular hitting too, but I just find on the headphones I can hear a lot more detail on that album. And you could throw Security in there. You could throw Peter Gabriel's second album in there. You could throw his So album in there. Though I do think the earlier three are better than the So album on the headphones. Yeah, the Cars thing is very detailed because they play the keyboards and the guitar part. And you can hear the little drumming parts on it that you probably don't pay attention to as much on the Cars albums because of the vocals and the catchiness of the music. So when you're listening to it on headphones, you hear the details more that you wouldn't normally hear because you're too focused on the beat and the rhythm of the song. Yeah, you might be right. I think it was used. I know it was kind of the anthem for the Mandela run for presidency too, I think. No, I haven't limited it to any particular genre. Some genres I think lend themselves better to headphones music than others. Not that hard rock and heavy metal don't have good stuff for headphones. The one application of headphones for heavy metal is if you want to listen to it late at night and you want to crank it. You really can't do that unless you put it on headphones, really, because some people in the building may not care too much for my take on heavy metal at midnight when I'm listening to it on the headphones. Yeah, no, I'm not. It's not limited at all. That's what I'm trying to say. This album is really quite good too, but a lot of the Genesis stuff lend themselves well to the headphones. They're kind of muffled. Some of their albums are a little bit muffled. This one, Nursery Cryme, both of them are a little bit on the muffled side, meaning that the production isn't as good sounding. So on the headphones, you can hear stuff in the background that even though it's muffled, you can hear it a little bit more. I actually prefer this album the most out of all the Genesis stuff for my headphones. This and Wind and the Wuthering. I like both of them on headphones because they have a lot of different sounds on their album. They're a lot more kind of pastoral in nature too. And I think that lends itself well to this. No, I don't really follow that at all. I would have to say I have seen the Nelson Mandela movie with Morgan Freeman. It was a little bit interesting, and I kind of had a little bit of interest in it when when Gabriel's 3 came out because I liked the album, so I I've followed the song, and so I checked on it, see what it was, but I don't really follow it that much. I mean, some people might say there's apartheid going on there now, but I'm not going to get into that because that's political, and I'm not here for politics. I'm here for music. Yeah, I've never actually. This is that album you just said, Heart of Glass. This is an album I've long liked. It was my friend bought it first. He had it, and we listened to it a lot. But I've never owned it, not in any form. And I've looked for it, but I've just never seen it out there. It's you know, there's certain albums that you always see everywhere you go in record stores, not record stores, but in thrift stores and stuff. But this is not one of them. An album like that would be picked up fast because people are always looking for it. Next up is this one. This is probably my favorite Jethro Tull album um, on headphones. It's because of Baker Street Muse. Really, lots of stuff going on that song, and you don't hear it as much if you're listening to it straight. And once you hear it on, kind of is a almost Gentle Giant like song too. It's very similar and very complex structure, complex instrumentation. Very much reminds me of Gentle Giant. This particular tune, fantastic tune though, and that's from Minstrels in the Gallery. Rainbow, yeah. I like the Dio albums, of course. I don't know as much of their later stuff, although I have listened to some of it on occasion. But the Dio stuff is the main part. But they're not albums that I particularly think of when it comes to headphones. I do like all three of the Dio ones, though. I just it doesn't I don't get a vibe that I should listen to it on headphones or anything. It's never been an album none of them have ever been albums that I've thought to put on the headphones. I may have put them on the headphones at some point in time. I just don't recall it. I won't be hearing anything at my funeral because if I am, I'm too early for the funeral. Let's put it that way. I don't think they'll play music at my funeral, although you never know. It's not going to be. I'm not going to be buried. My daughter will get the cremation, so they'll probably just cremate me and give her my stuff, and she can do with it whatever she wants. I doubt there's going to be any kind of a funeral arrangement. Another album is this one. This is actually a kind of a horrible sounding album, at least on the stereo. It's beefy and stuff like that, but there's a lot of gappy feel to it. It feels dated. The album looks dated. It's kind of horrible sounding at times too, but I do like a couple of tracks off of here on the headphones. Whole Lot of Love, of course, is the main song that I like, and Ramble On. Those are the two that I like on the headphones off of this album. If I was making a Led Zeppelin collection or something for headphones, those would be the two songs I took off of this album for sure. Led Zeppelin 2. Oh, if I was being kidnapped? I don't know. It's not something I would have thought about. If I had to pick one, a Tull song for being kidnapped, I don't know. Bungle in the Jungle, I guess. I don't know. Actually, I would probably something a little bit more morbid would fit into that better. Maybe Stand Up. That one might be a good one for that. Or I should say Fat Man. Next up, Alan Parsons Project, Eye in the Sky. Absolutely killer on the headphones. I mean, it sounds great on the stereo, but this is one that I like the serious, the title track. Um, where is it? Psychobabble. Yeah, Step by Step. Yeah, all these songs sound great on the headphones. Probably Sirius is the one that I like the best on the headphones, though. And you know what? To be honest with you, I think a lot of Alan Parsons Project albums would probably fall within this. I'm still working my way through their discography, although I did buy 7 other albums now. I started with this one, and the next thing I know, I got 7 of them, and they're all going to work their way onto my playlist, and we'll see how that works out. But this one definitely like that. Yeah, it's an album that really I kind of ignored when I was growing up, and I'm not really sure why. I knew a couple of the tracks off it. I liked them, but I just never really paid much attention to the band or anything they did. It wasn't until Ben insisted I do this on one of his Ben's album challenge, I think is where he got it. And then he had it in one of the band battles as well, that I started listening to the album. So I went and I bought it and I put it in my playlist, and was in there for maybe 10 weeks, and then I took it off. I really wasn't into it. And then I thought, you know what? I want to hear it again. So I put it back in the playlist. It did quite well. And I've listened to it with the headphones, and I like it almost as much. So it's quite a good album. Yeah, probably back in the early 80s, I liked my music heavier. Bands like Black Sabbath and Judas Priest and Rush were all bands that I cranked a lot. Alan Parsons Project seemed a little too poppy, and I'll be honest that I kind of thought of it as a pop album until I started listening to it and realized that it does have a pop element, but has a lot of progressive elements to the music as well. Quite good stuff too. Yeah, it's they definitely weren't in my wheelhouse. They weren't. That was a band that wouldn't have been even on my radar back in the 80s. It didn't come on my radar till this channel, and now I quite like them a lot. Yeah, and at that time, it definitely would have been, but my focus on this channel has been on prog music, and so I think my whole change, like, I still like metal, and I still like, hard rock, but they're both easily a distant second and third to the progressive elements of music. The next album is not going to surprise anybody that it's on here. Sorry, I'm just going to put this up a little bit. Probably is on just about everybody's headphones, and that's this one, Dark Side of the Moon. Really, just an absolute masterpiece of engineering and the detail that went into this album and the way in which they tied all the tracks together using different sounds and noises, absolutely phenomenal. And nothing comes through clearer than when you're listening to this on a headphones. It's definitely one of the premium headphones albums, if ever there was one. And you could say the same about Animals and Wish You Were Here, and my other personal favorite from them, Adam Hart Mother, really great on the headphones too, but nothing touches this on the headphones. Just it's unbelievable how well this is put together. Just an absolute killer album on it. It's a great album. I seen Pink Floyd laser CD disc thing at the planetarium in Toronto when they used to actually have the planetarium, and they did a laser Floyd Gold, and a lot of this was on there. Just absolutely fantastic. Put me to sleep. It was so good. Yeah, I think maybe that might not be the lyrics, but I get the sentiment. Yeah, just absolutely killer album from top to bottom. It just every song there's like no break. It's just the songs just flow right into each other, and they use different noises and sounds to tie everything together. Fantastic, and it's dark and heavy too. Yeah, still a great song though. So that's it for my first stack. I got a second stack here, but you could some people will. There was always this argument when I was growing up. People would say Dark Side of the Moon is their best album, and the other people would say, no, it's Wish You Were Here is their best album. Matter of opinion, I guess. For me, Wish You Were Here doesn't get as much attention by me only because all the songs I heard individually throughout time and kind of thought of them as being individual. So when they put the whole thing on the album, I kind didn't warm up to the album as much as maybe the individual songs. Yeah, I think they're probably glad they missed on that opportunity. Yeah, I got another stack here. I could have made 4 stacks. I just tried to pick one from each band. Pink Floyd, you could pick half a dozen albums and you wouldn't be out of place with any of them. Those, I think the space rock bands or the heavier space rock bands definitely make for good headphone sounds. Absolutely killer. Or even the symphonic prog stuff is quite good for that as well. So some genres lend themselves more to headphones than maybe others do. Here's an album that absolutely killer. This is quite a heavy album too. So we have Tab in the Ocean here. This is probably initially this has been my favorite Nectar album. I think the reason I like it so much is it's very heavy. It's almost progressive hard rock or heavy metal, progressive metal. A lot of metal sound. I can see why Iron Maiden chose to cover. I think they covered King of Twilight, if I'm not mistaken. But there's only 4 tracks on this album, and you got 2 different versions on this particular disc. You've got the original 72 mix, and then you got the 76 UX mix. There's not really a lot of difference other than some of the songs are a tiny bit shorter on the on the US version. I think there's 3 of the tracks are just there's like little bits of pieces taken out of them for whatever reason. I'm not sure what it is. You've also got the live stuff here, which is quite good. This is quite heavy, and when you play it on the headphones, that guitar and the details on the guitar come out as well as the heaviness of the keyboards, which is really quite heavy on this album. But I do also like Journey to the Center of the Eye, very underrated album. It doesn't get the attention this one gets, but I think it's almost as good or maybe even better an album. And then, of course, Remember the Future, which is their 4th one. I think that one would sound great on headphones. I haven't had a chance to listen to it on any kind of quality headphones at this point in time, but eventually I will get to it. So the Nectar kind of lends themselves to that. The early Nectar, especially because it's so thick and heavy. Next up, nobody's going to doubt this one. And you could throw in all 3 of his albums, and we're talking about Hendrix. Axe's Bold as Love is my particular favorite. I think it's primarily because I had it on vinyl. I got it on on cassette, and then it was the first album I bought on CD, and I've had it the longest. So that's pretty much the reason why I think it's my favorite Hendrix album, just from familiarity. There's a lot of kind of interesting sounds when you listen to this on headphones that you don't. You probably hear them on the record player, but they don't stand out as much as they do on headphones. And there's just a lot of like Castles Made of Sand, EXP, really good, Spanish Castle Magic, Little Wing. if 6 turned out to be a 9 or was a 9, that can be killer stuff here. And you could even more so, I probably think that RU Experience has even more stuff on it that's absolutely killer on the headphones. I've heard both albums quite a bit on the headphones. Really good stuff. So Jimi Hendrix's collection. And then of course I'm not as familiar with the Electric Ladyland as the other two, but I'm sure it probably fits the bill as well. For all you Hendrix fans out there. The people that don't like Hendrix, I don't get them at all. They're a strange group of people. They'll say things like, "Oh, Hendrix wasn't as good a guitar player as people say he was. I've heard other people do his stuff and do it better." Yeah, but he was the only one doing it when he started out. He was playing with subpar equipment at the time, and he didn't have all that technology. He was doing it with his own ingenuity. So I tell them that, but you know how people are. They don't. Somebody's at the top, and they don't want them to be at the top. That's all it is. Hey, Wade, welcome to the program. As you can see tonight, we're doing albums that have a certain appeal on headphones and why we like them on headphones. Not necessarily like them more than we do on the stereo, but when we're lying down at night or when we decide we can't make noise for whatever reason, we go to these albums because they sound great on headphones. That's the way I look at it anyways. So I'm going to move on to the next band. This won't be a surprise. This is my absolute favorite to listen to by Rush on headphones. All those little noises that Neil Peart's making, the keyboards, synthesizer sounds that Geddy Lee's making, the detail on the guitar that Alex is making. This comes through full force on the headphones. There are other Rush albums that fit this too. Fly By Night, I think, is a good one on headphones. Caress of Steel, 2112, Hemispheres, all of them absolutely killer on headphones, but this is my particular favorite one. And if oddly enough, I like Cygnus X1 much better on headphones than I do. I tend to blot it out when I'm just playing it on the stereo. I don't think about it. I hear it, but I don't hear it. But when you're listening to it on headphones, it's really good. This will probably be the album I choose to do on headphones tonight. It's the one I pulled it out for that reason. But yeah, Rush has a lot of stuff that's really good on the headphones. Yeah, that might be true. It could be true. I think a part of Hendrix's appeal is his stage presence. He's different looking than a lot of guitar players. He does things on stage that nobody thought to do when he was doing it at the beginning. He has a certain he's left-handed. All these things I think lead to his stage persona, which I think is the reason why he's so big. And he can do things with the guitar that nobody else was doing at the time. It's not that there isn't people out there that can do that. There's lots of people that can do that now, but he did it first, kind of like the Beatles did it first. So they get a lot of kudos for that. You know, anybody can, once something is created, anybody else who's good at it can come along and expand it. There's no doubt about that. But when you're doing it at initially being the first one, you don't have anybody to go look at, pull it out. Although I've heard that Hendrix was a big admirer of Terry Kath, and Terry Kath is amazing. He does a lot of the similar stuff that Hendrix was doing. But I think Hendrix was just more of a stage presence. A lot of people who don't really follow music and just listen to what they hear on the radio, if you ask them who's that, they hear something like Purple Haze or All Along the Watchtower, they may say, "Oh, I think it's that Hendrix." But if you play Chicago, nobody's saying, "Oh, I think that's Terry Kath." You just don't know him because he's not as visible, I guess, is the word to put it out there. Yep, some good stuff. I think Robin Trower, Porky Pig here. Yeah, no, Trower. Sorry, very good guitar player. I don't follow his stuff as much. I think he's a guy I could easily get into though, but for whatever reason, I never see stuff from him when I'm at the record store. And usually, when I'm there, I'm looking for the albums I want to buy, and every once in a while, I may see an album or two that I hadn't planned on buying, and I will buy them, and much to my wallet's disgrace. But I haven't seen anything from him, and that's part of the reason. Yeah, I don't know if blues and jazz take a back seat in the USA. I think it's to me, that's when I think of jazz and blues, that's where I think you get it from, is from the US. I never really think of it as being something outside of the US, but I'm sure you're probably right. Yeah, that's true. And you know, a lot of newer albums, Wade, a lot of stuff that's come out in the recent decades really lend themselves well to headphones, because a couple of things. The quality of headphones have gotten so much better, and people are so busy and they can't play loud music in where they're living because there's other people there. So that quality of headphones have gotten better, and the quality of the albums have gotten better at the same time, which really does lend itself well to the headphone industry. Um, It's probably true. Also, a lot of people were doing, like you said, a lot of people were doing the Hendrix thing. It's when he went to England, nobody was doing what he was doing in England. He just blew everybody away, and then they just and it wasn't just the people that he blew away; it was the other musicians, the Stones, the Who, um, all these other bands that were out there playing music. They were blown away by him too. You know, and that's why I think even they seen his genius at work, right? I don't know if he's a genius, but he was able to interpret stuff on the guitar like a virtuoso, right? Yeah, I've heard this before too. I think there's a lot of professional jealousy over Hendrix. Certainly, Eric Clapton had that for sure. Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm not a big jazz fan myself. I don't hate it, but it's not something I go out to buy. If I hear stuff that's jazzy on the radio, or not that I listen to the radio, but if I do that, um, I won't turn it off or anything. Or if they're talking about it, I'll listen. But I'm not sold on it so much. And the blues, I used to be sold a lot more on the blues. It's kind of faded for me a bit, to the point where I don't listen to it as much as I used to. I think it's because my tastes have changed. Not the music's not any different, really. Yeah, that move to go to Britain when he went there, at the time he went there, because a lot of the bands that were playing in the UK at the time, London scene specifically, were all trying to get into that American blues sound, and Hendrix he just brought that out, and he added that kind of really heavy element. Nobody was adding the heavy element as much as he was. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. Great, great. He's just great, right? Yes, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, so the blues element, I think it was that Hendrix was doing something with the blues element and the hard rock element and the guitar element, all mixing it all together in a kind of performance enhanced setting. And he was the only one doing it like that, and was the first one to do it. It's kind of like the Beatles. They were the first one to do everything. But are the Beatles as great um, as all the bands that came after? Hard to say. I like them a lot. I think personally, I think Zeppelin is the band, and I know I'll take some heat for that because a lot of people don't like Zeppelin and think they were copycats and stuff like that. But I think Zeppelin did stuff too that other bands were doing as well. Yeah, if you've got 10 people looking at a band, you're going to get disagreements for sure. I'm going to move on to the next album. So this is one, Paul Simon's Graceland. I think the reason this album gets headphones for me is because I took it with me to New Zealand, and back then I had those ugly looking Walkmans, with put the cassette in and put the phones on your ears, and it was the only album cassette that I had with me. I only took that one, so I played it like nonstop because it was the only album. It was kind of like being on a desert island with one album. I only had this one, so this was the one I played, and I got so used to listening to it on headphones that I still kind of feel that way about it now. I don't think it's necessarily a headphones album, but it's definitely one for me. No, I don't think he put down his influences. Not at all. I think he really quite liked certain people, and so admiring of them that sometimes he almost put them on the spot. I don't think he had that in him to be like that. No, it started with my trip to New Zealand, Paul Simon, back in 1990. I did have the album before that, but I just played it on the stereo once in a while. It wasn't a great album at that time, but for me, anyways. But when I decided to go to New Zealand, it was I had given away all my vinyl, of course, so I wasn't going to take that with me on the plane, anyways. But I only had maybe half a dozen cassettes at the time that I really hadn't gotten overly involved with, and this was one of them. So I chose this one. It was just maybe a random choice. I'm not really sure why. Yeah, I don't think that certainly didn't happen in New Zealand, that's for sure. I didn't reach any godlike status, that's for sure. This one I like a lot on headphones. I do like some of the other Styx albums too. I wouldn't say Styx is necessarily a headphones band for me. I don't think of them as a headphones band. I kind of like this particular one, but I like this album no matter what. It's my favorite album of all time, so I'll play it in anything, and that's basically the reason it gets here. Generally speaking, I like Styx very high in the volume, and I like the vocal harmonies the best. That's to me their big thing. The Fix is not a band I've ever really followed. I don't even know if I know anything by them really. I'm sure I do, but the problem is I don't know the titles, the song titles. I may know the song, but not know necessarily the titles. I have listened to them before though. Maybe several times I picked them for different lists as well because certain songs that they play I like. But if you were to ask me what the titles were, I couldn't tell you. Not at the present time. Here's another band that I like some of their stuff on headphones, but can listen to it just as well without the headphones. Maybe I'll do an episode on car albums, and these definitely would fall into that as well. Supertramp, Even in the Quietest Moment. This is my particular favorite on headphones. I do like Crime of the Century too. A little bit of Breakfast in America and some of the later, more proggy stuff that came out after Roger Hodgson left the band sounds good on the headphones. But this is my particular favorite. It's almost feels like a story going on here. Supertramp, Even in the Quietest Moments. Yeah, I my favorite particular Supertramp song is on this album, Even in the Quietest Moments, the title track, and Baba G. Like both of them, great on headphones. Probably my two favorite songs to listen to on the headphones by Supertramp. Next up, for one song, yeah, some of the other stuff is good on here too, but the one song that really gets me going on, especially on headphones, I just love that cranking raw guitar sound, almost garage-like sound. Thin Lizzy's Jailbreak, that opening track, absolutely amazing on headphones. Sometimes I'll just rewind it, or in the old days, I would have rewind it, but with the new ones now, I'll just put it back one and play it again. Just love that song on headphones. Thin Lizzy's Jailbreak. A lot of this other stuff is good too. I like the cowboy song, Emerald, of course. Angels Back, that's a great one. The Lonely Girl, very underrated. Fantastic track. Love it. This is a great album. Next up, this is for Mr. King. This was one of my first albums to listen to on the headphones. When somebody bought me a set of headphones, and back in that time period, we only had we had a couple stereos in the house, but one of them had a plug-in for headphones. So, and the headphones were shitty, and the stereo was shitty, and the stereo was really shitty actually. But this album sounded great to me on the headphones. Just a Game, and that time period, that I would have to say that was when I was reading a lot, and this was my favorite album to play while I was reading and listening to on the headphones. And this is probably what launched the headphones for me, this album, and why this album was my favorite for many years. Just a Game from Triumph. Yeah, Whiskey in a Jar is a good one too. Is that on that album? I think it is, right? Oh no, it's not on this one. But I know the song that you're talking about. I'm not even sure what album it's on though. But I have heard it, and I've heard it on headphones. It's good. It's good. So we got 3 more to go. I kind of like all 3 of these quite a bit on headphones. This one's, I love just about everything by this band, especially on headphones, because I often like to listen to these guys late, and you can't crank them because get the police at your door pretty quickly. So we're talking about The Who, Live at Leeds. Now, the original version of this album only had 8 songs on it. This one has 14, and some of the other versions have 16 and 22, and probably more now. Who knows? But my favorite track by The Who in on the headphones is, where is it? I Can't Explain. Now, I used to play the other Who album that I liked a lot was Meaty Beaty Big and Bouncy, because it had a lot of those kind of headphone favorite tracks, like those little one-off kind of pop songs that they did in the 60s. Brilliant stuff. Brilliant. This album is really good, and it's just energy just comes whipping through the headphones when you hear this album. The Who, Live at Leeds. I was thinking about the Who the last couple days because I know last night, I think Saturday night, they played their final concert in New York City. I'm curious to see how that all went over. Those guys are all in their they're going to be close to 80 now, I think. Next up, this is a band I like a lot on headphones. Probably like this album the best of them a whole lot. A Wobbler album. This is Dwellers of the Deep, their last, most current album. Absolutely killer. All the sounds on here, so yes-like. Even the vocalist has almost yes-like quality to his vocals on this particular album. There's so much good stuff on this album. And I like this on the stereo, but I think I like it more on the headphones. And now we're going to get to my favorite headphones album. And I forgot my Tangerine Dream album. So we'll do that one first. Actually, I forgot to put it in the stack, but Tangerine Dream, another great band on headphones, kind of like a band from the 80s that I like called Kraftwerk. I know many people have heard of them. They had different eras to their music, but that synth pop era, that electronic era, if you want to call it, some great stuff on headphones on those albums too. I used to have one and I cannot think of the name of the album if my life depended on it right now, but really good headphone stuff. So both of those deserve to be on here. And, you could probably throw Hawkwind in here as well. I didn't pick anything from them. I tend to like their music on the record player more, although I think they probably make great headphones albums either, because there's always stuff in the background going on there that you can't hear, right? And the next, and this is probably my favorite headphones album for 2 tracks here. There's 2 tracks on this album I think are absolutely behemoths on the headphones. Maybe my 2 favorite headphone tracks, even more so than the Dark Side of the Moon album, and that's the Yes album. Now, some of their stuff on Fragile and Close to the Edge and even Drama are quite good on headphones too, but this is the coup de grace here, if you ask me. Yours is No Disgrace and Starship Trooper, even Perpetual Change. You could throw that in there too. All 3 of these tracks, absolutely killer and stellar here on the Yes album, which is that guitar part that's bouncing back and forth between your ears on Yours is No Disgrace is absolutely killer. No doubt about it. Probably my favorite headphones track. Yours is No Disgrace, but I probably said that 3 times today, right? So those are that's the stack of the albums that I've brought up forward for you to see. In the YMO, I've heard maybe 1 track by them, and I don't think I heard it on headphones, so I will listen for them. Yeah, you're right about Kraftwerk. They were probably the only band putting out that sound, and I always thought, wow, there's nobody else doing this. It had a unique sound to it. It was progressive in nature, but very synth pop at the same time. And the album cover was brilliant. I just remember some kind of like synthetic android faces. I wish I could remember the name of the album. I owned it on cassette, and so I didn't own it on CD or vinyl. I've looked for stuff by them too sometimes when I'm looking, but they just never have anything, nothing used, and I don't even think they have any new stuff from them. I think I'd have to go online to get it, and I'm willing to go online, but I have to be very selective because that's an expensive proposition. If you watch the video today of the new albums I purchased, you'll see that with the BTO albums. I purchased 4 BTO albums in a 2 album sets, two different 2 album sets, and they were both. The total came to like $107 for the 4 of them, which is way over what I would want to pay for them normally. But I was going to use them in a show, and I didn't get them in time anyway, so I ended up You just got to be careful because a lot of that is you're paying the exchange rate and you're paying for the um, for the travel fee, I guess, if you want to call it that. Yeah, they had very different sound to their music, no doubt about it. They just kind of blended a lot of different sounds together, and nobody else, I think, was doing that at that particular time. I always lump them in with the new wave bands because of the time period, but really they didn't. They did have some of that synth pop stuff that new wave bands were using, but it was very complex, much different than a lot of the other stuff. Anyways, I do like them. Yeah, yeah, it's true. Sometimes over time, bands start out in one genre and they migrate to a different genre based on how people look at them in hindsight. And this kind of goes back to Hendrix too. When he first came out and was doing everything, he was put in this category and people thought of him this way, and now he's kind of migrated to a different category and people's expectation. Whenever you put somebody and label them as the best of all time, you're going to get flack from some group of people. Always going to happen. People always said the Beatles were the best, and they take flack for that. Some people hate the Beatles, absolutely hate them, think that they're the worst band ever. And what importance did they have in rock history? Well, without them, a lot of this stuff we wouldn't be able to talk about it right now. I don't think the Beatles musicianship was like stellar. You're never going to say that they were the top 10 best guitarists or drummers or bass players of all time, but they were good. They were good, and they were creative with what they had, and they created a lot of stuff. That's their biggest. To me, that's their biggest thing, is that they were able to create stuff that was not only really good, but it was generally loved by everybody, back in the 60s for sure. Yeah, I know. I get this too because a lot of people want to drag Rush out of the progressive rock genre and put them in the heavy metal, progressive metal genre. But progressive metal genre, how could they be playing in the progressive metal genre? It didn't exist when they came out. Didn't exist at all. So they weren't playing progressive metal. They were just playing what they wanted to play. And bands from the progressive um, eventually bands who got in that genre were citing them as influence, so people just lump them in there, and I don't think of them as progressive metal, and I know that's going to offend some people, but I'm sorry, but that's not the way I heard them. Because a lot of it, especially with the metal, the metal genres, a lot of those didn't come into existence until much later in time, and so like the stoner metal that Black Sabbath is kind of, people kind of say they found it. They weren't playing stoner metal. They were just playing what they wanted to play. It wasn't called stoner metal. In fact, it wasn't even called heavy metal. Yeah, it's just things evolve as time goes on. It's kind of, and this is maybe a little bit of a history thing. It's kind of like saying that all the people in the 1800s were that lived in the United States were very bad because they owned slaves. Well, everybody owned slaves back then. It wasn't even a thing. You may go forward in 100 years and people will say everybody who owned dogs and cats were slave owners. That may happen. Doesn't mean that you're necessarily bad. That's just the way it was at that time period. It's kind of the same with the music here, I think, too. And maybe I shouldn't say these things, but a lot of people will try to take stuff from the past and put it into context today. and you can't compare it what's today because things are different today. So you have to take that stuff and put it in the context of the time period it came out of. And that's the same with the Beatles. Their music was innovative and creative and expanding the realms of rock when nobody else was doing what they were doing. Now, some people say, "Oh, well, the Kinks were doing this," and but the Kinks. The problem with the Kinks is they couldn't even get on the British um, invasion because they had problems with the immigration. Wouldn't let them in the country because they would fight with people all the time. So they might have had more of an influence on the punk movement than the British Wave or British invasion movement. Anyways, these are all just opinions. They're like, well, my dad used to say that, and $1.40 will get you in the newspaper. So that's my stack of albums. And there's many more, of course. You could cite other albums from the bands I've chosen, and I tried to when I was doing them. Yeah, I can't really comment too much on Jay Hawkins since I don't even know who he is, really. You got a word from your sponsors? And please let me know. I mean, I have this album, which I had listened to today. This could be a good headphones album, too, I think. I did listen to it a couple times on headphone. I did like it, but I never wasn't one I played a lot. But it's because the guitar is so mild on that particular album. Those are those are my main albums, and I'm sure there's others that I forgot to bring up. I figured 2025 should be more than enough for the show. Do I have the albums I'm diving into of this week, of the week, if that's what you're saying? I haven't, I just I came back from where I was from yesterday and put together my list this morning of shows for the week. And there will be a new show that I'm starting. Yeah, I can do the recap. I'll do it in a second. So what I was saying is I was putting the shows together for this week, and there's a new show that I'm doing starting on Thursday called Top of the Charts. And basically what it is I've encapsulated one particular part of rock history by using the Billboard Top 200 charts. So I picked a week, and I took the top 10 albums that were on the charts of that week, and I'll give that list when I do the show. You'll see it when I do the show. We'll have the list of those albums. I'll talk briefly about each of them according to what the Billboard said about them, and then how long they've been on and that kind of stuff. And then I'll take the 6 rock albums that are on this particular chart and go over them a little bit and why I think they did so well. And so I'm playing those. So I'm playing all 6 of those albums throughout the week until I get to Thursday. And so I'm a little bit woke up on them, I guess is what you might want to call it. Yeah, I did an episode. It came out a little bit late today called This Week, and I pretty much detailed all the stuff I'm going to do throughout this week, including the series that we're starting tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? Yeah, I guess tomorrow will be the 1st of September. So the first episode will come out, which is my 30 favorite rock musicians who've passed away. I figured I would do something to kind of honor them. I did do something like this in the first year of the channel. I did a 62 days, one for 2 artists for each year. that had passed away. Then I gave them kind of a little bit of notoriety. So there was 62 days, 60 or 100, and I guess it'd be 124 artists, although there was a couple of threes in there as well. So I did do that, but that was a long while ago. So I thought maybe I'll do something a little bit different here and do a monthly series on it, and then pick the top 30 ones that they may not necessarily be the most influential, but they're my favorites. These are people that had impact in my music history. Yeah, I did this last year. I'm not sure I want to do that again. I haven't decided yet, and we still got a couple months before we get to that. So I may do something along that line, but I don't want to do that exact same thing I did last Halloween. I can't even remember what I did last Halloween. I think it might have been songs. Like I think I did on Halloween. I think I did like a top 10 or top 20 Halloween songs. I think that may be what I've done. I'd have to go back and look. Yeah, maybe we'll do a month of Halloween albums or albums that are creepy. I think that's what I did. Some stuff that was creepy, something that was kind of scary or maybe Halloween-ish. Yeah, yeah, I did. That's what I thought I did. I wasn't quite sure what I did. I don't think I did the whole month. Can't remember what I did last November. Can't even remember what I did yesterday, really. Yep. So I'll put that down and maybe we'll do that. Like instead of doing like a top 10 or just a one album off, maybe we'll do a whole month of Halloween stuff. Yep, maybe that's what we'll do. We'll do what you said then. We'll pick, maybe I'll pick 30. Well, there's 30 days in November. So maybe we do um, 30 albums that have a Halloween influence or something like that to them that people might think are scary or creepy, or probably we do 30 Alice Cooper albums. Yeah, that might have been it. I can't remember, but I will make time for it this time around. I've got about 6 or 7 monthly series is on the books that I've got listed to do at some point, but they're not necessarily um, like I did the one for the series for the month of February, which was all those love songs. So I thought that went over well. A lot of people kind of enjoyed it. I think a couple people came on board with that series. That was their first one. Yeah, I'll find myself 30 for that. I got a couple months to think that over too. Obviously, there's going to be some Alice Cooper in that one for sure. There's a lot of metal bands that really lend themselves well to that genre as well. Yeah, well, first I'd have to get a Prog Monster mask. Definitely would have to get one first, I think. So this month's series, in case you haven't been following, will be the 30 Prog, sorry, 30 my 30 favorite rock musicians who have passed away, and I've got a list of like 50 or so. So I have to narrow it down to just 30 of them. Maybe I'll do a bunch of people at the end that I wanted to mention as well. No, the beard thing can't happen. Unfortunately, my job does not permit that stuff. Yeah, I thought the Valentine's thing. I was kind of trepidation about doing it because I didn't think that was something I really liked to do. But it actually worked out very well. I thought it went over very well. People kind of enjoyed it. No, we're doing 30 rock art. My 30 favorite rock artists. There's no genre here. 30 favorite rock artists that have passed away. I'm going to do 30 of them, one for each day. Yeah, I'd like to quit the job, but unfortunately, I'm in Canada where jobs are scarce and bills are high. That's why I don't have the beard anymore. Otherwise, I'd probably still have it. A lot of people like the beard because then you don't have to look at my face. Yeah, so this was a bit of a fun topic. I thought I'm going to give them now. The albums I chose, I'm just going to give them to you quickly here. So if you want to go back and maybe try listening to a couple of these, maybe you haven't. Yeah, no, you don't want to come to Canada anyways, unless you've got tons of money and don't like the love that we're showing people. So I'll give them to you all again. So in case any of these albums you want to jot down so you can listen to them if you haven't. Of course, you've probably heard this one, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. You could pick any Pink Floyd album, really. Eye in the Sky, Alan Parsons, Led Zeppelin 2. Some of the other Zeppelin albums are quite good on headphones as well, but that one I think is the special one. Minstrel in the Gallery, or there's a couple of other Jethro Tull albums. I like the Living in the Past, even though it's kind of a compilation. I like that on headphones as well. Sorry. Genesis Trespass, Peter Gabriel 3, or if you want Security or Peter Gabriel 2, they're all pretty good too. Eloy, just about any Eloy album would fit this, but I think this one is the one I like the best on headphones colors. Although I do like the Green album, which I'm drawing a blank on right now. The Doors, any Doors album as well. I just think this one is probably the best. Black Sabbath's Paranoid. This is, to me, those first 3 or 4 Black Sabbath albums, maybe up to Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, all really good on headphones. This one I think is by far the best, though. The Beatles, you could pick any other Beatles. A couple of other Beatle albums would fit here. I just think this one has that headphone sound to it. It's definitely psychedelic for sure. BTO, Not Fragile. I don't really generally think of BTO as a headphones band, but I do like this particular one. John and Vangelis, the Friends of Mr. Cairo. I think this brings out Vangelis's keyboard parts quite well. And for some people that don't know John and Vangelis, I think they have 4 albums altogether between them. So there are other ones. This is just the one that kind of got the notoriety. The Yes album, but you could pick Fragile, you could pick Relayer, you could pick just about any of that early Yes, or even some of the later stuff too. Wobbler, very Yes-like. This particular one is fantastic. I highly recommend this for headphones. Dwellers of the Deep, it's called, sorry. Then you've got Live at Leeds. And there are other Who albums, Meaty Beaty Big and Bouncy, which is a compilation, really good. I do kind of like their newer stuff too, like the last album, which is the self-titled album. Quite good on headphones as well. Paul Simon's Graceland. I don't know if this is necessarily that great of a album, but I played it a lot on headphones while I was in New Zealand, so it's kind of stuck in my head, or my craw, or whatever you want to call it. This was my first kind of headphones album, Just a Game from Triumph. Fantastic album. Jailbreak, primarily for the title track, which I love. Some of the other stuff's pretty good too. Angel of Death, another really great headphones track from them. You've got Supertramp's Even in the Quietest Moments, particularly like this album on headphones. Some of their other stuff from Breakfast in America, Crime of the Century, really good as well. And some of the later stuff after Hodgson left is really quite progressive and sounds quite good on the headphones. Styx, not necessarily a headphones band for me. Never really thought of them that way. I do like this album though. Pieces of Eight, sorry, didn't say it. This is my favorite Rush album for headphones. Farewell to Kings, Although Hemispheres, Caress of Steel, 2112, Fly By Night, all really good. Even Moving Pictures has some really good headphone stuff too. All three of the Hendrix albums, this just happens to be my favorite. Bold as Love, Electric Ladyland, Are You Experienced, all really good stuff as well. Here's an album that if you haven't had a chance to listen to any stuff by this band, you should do it. If you've had a chance to listen to the band, you should try some of them on the headphones. This is a good one for that. Tab in the Ocean, Journey to Center of the Eye, Back to Remember the Future, Back to the Future. Yeah, Michael J. Fox was playing guitar here. Right? Yeah. Anyway, so those are the albums that I brought out for it, but I encourage people to explore some of the discographies of some of these bands if you haven't had a chance to do that as well. So that's the list. I hope you enjoyed this. It was fun to do. I'm going to cut it short a little bit tonight because when I fell asleep, I forgot to set my baseball for tonight, and so I'm behind in that. So I've got about 45 minutes before the deadline for setting the teams is in, so I will go do that. I'm glad, Grandizer, to see you, and quite happy that you joined. You're a big part of this particular show, anyways. Coming on here and supporting me week after week, I really appreciate it. Makes the show go better and keeps it going, and that part I like because I'm trying to get myself to a point where I'm used to doing live videos so that when it comes time to do videos with other people, I won't be so kind of, what do you call, like shell shocked, I guess. Maybe that's a term that I could use here. I'm not sure. You tell me. And of course, I want to thank Wade for coming on too. Always shows up, gives me a little bit. Yeah, some of the headphone devices now are just so superior to anything. I think about the stuff I listened to headphones back in the 80s compared to today's stuff. It's like a 72 Maverick, and you compare that to a Porsche of nowadays. It's just hard to say it's even the same type of thing, right? Anyways, I want to thank everybody for coming on tonight, supporting the channel. That's much appreciated. We will be back next Sunday with another topic. I think we'll probably go back to my collection of something. I haven't decided which one yet. So, but we did the Jethro Tull one. Seems to have gone over fairly well last week. And so I'm going to pick one. And I think I kind of have an idea which one I'm going to do, but I'm not going to say anything until I think about it for a bit. Anyways, have yourself a good evening. Thanks for joining me, and good night and goodbye here from the Prog Monster.